Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. A man who's been on the telly as long as I can remember, really. He's been a star of stage and screen. And he's in pantomime right now in Cinderella at Derby Live through January the 3rd. And I'm delighted to talk to Richard Blackwood. How are you?
I'm all right, my friend. How are you doing?
You know, I'm really good. It's great to talk to you. I tell you why I like you. You just have infinite bags of warmth. And that's something you can't buy in this business. I think that sort of defined your career, hasn't it?
I've had the highs and the lows, but I think where I've been very lucky is that I've been able to somewhat stay relevant for the last, 20 years or so. So I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky.
You're currently in Cinderella in Derby, and Panto is hard work, but it's also great fun. I was looking at your Twitter feed earlier, and there you are with the kids. I guess there's no better feeling than getting affirmation from 7-year-olds to 70-year-olds who enjoy what you do.
You know what, though? I was saying to somebody just the other day, I always go into Panto with a not sure how I'm going to feel attitude. It's such a weird thing. I mean, I've always been very honest about it, because it's a completely different world to any other in entertainment. It can border on kind of weird. It just feels really different, right? You know, and you have to be ready for it. It's not something that when you go up for it, you think, oh yeah, I can do this. It will shock you. And one of the things I love is that the kids are very honest.
Yeah.
You know, there's no lying with kids, as you know. So whether you're on EastEnders, Towie, whatever program you're on, they don't care about that. If you're not funny today, they will let you know.
Yeah.
If they don't warm to your character, they will let you know immediately. There's no playing around with them. So I actually like that, because you know that when they're laughing, it's coming from a very real place.
I've got mates up and down the country who are doing Panto. I love people like Joe Pasquale who do it. And I always say it's bizarre that you would spend 2 weeks rehearsing a show that's off in 3 weeks. I mean, it's a bizarre medium in that sense that you're basically putting on a West End show within 2 weeks of rehearsal. I mean, the pressure's immense.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't ease up once you start the show. Because number one, it's a very full-on show. That's the first thing. But secondly, as I said, that you get a different audience of kids in actual fact, it's usually when the adults are there, it makes it a bit harder. Right? Because they're much more privy to humour and stuff. So, you know, they're more reserved. So even if they want to laugh, they will laugh with because they're adults. Whereas kids, as I say, they're hearing that kind of stuff for the first time. So as I said, it's just pure. So, when whomever's gone out first on stage will say, oh, what's the audience like? And they say, oh, it's primarily kids, it's great. And then usually the evening shows is more adults. And it's like, nah, because the adults will still kind of refrain from letting go, because there has to seem to be adults, can't enjoy it too much kind of thing.
And it is a bizarre medium, the fact that men are playing women, women are playing men, men are in big frocks, then there's a giant that comes on and dies, then Cinderella flies down, then there's a fairy godmother who's not real, who ends up disappearing, who goes off a footy. I mean, it's all very confusing to explain anyway, isn't it?
Extremely. And as I say, all you can do in a situation like that is just play the truth of what your character is. Because what happens is that the kids will gravitate to a certain person in the show, and that's split across the board, but they will follow that person. So for some, it's the journey of Cinderella, and her from going from rags to riches. The girls, primarily the little girls, that's their hero. It's like, wow, she was the underdog, and now she's the queen. Yeah. So they follow her story, and then you got some that follow Button's story for the best friend that never makes it. He never gets the girl. It's like, so. All you can do in that medium is tap into what you do and just hope that you get your following that follow you and love what you do.
I love that you're old school in a sense that I'm not quite sure what you are. Are you a singer? Are you a comedian? Are you a rapper? Are you an actor? Are you a presenter? You do it all, don't you? And I love that, because that's old showbiz.
So my philosophy is this. I was very lucky to have grown up at a time period where I saw the old black and white movies with, James Dean or Frank Sinatra or whomever, who could sing, dance, and act as well as each other.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that was normal. You'd watch a movie and and you would see that, singing in the rain, and great acting, and all of a sudden there's an epic dance scene in the rain, and blah blah, tap dance scene, and like this was, if you think about it, we didn't know any different coming from that period. So growing up, it changed. All of a sudden, you had to be just a master of one, and that made no sense to me, because the people that came before us were a master of all of them.
Yeah.
Right. So I never adhered to that rule of, you've just got to stick to one thing. I thought it was limiting yourself. It's like, no, if you are, the way that I look at it is that if you choose to be an entertainer, it just means that your form of artistic expression is through your mouth and your hands and your body. Because you find that most people that are entertainers usually start off being very good at drawing, right? And then they move on to like, I found that Michael Jackson was a good artist, and I didn't know that before.
Oh, that's interesting.
But then you found that his way of expression then became through dance and movement and singing. But initially, he used to draw, right? And I used to draw when I was a kid. My first form of expression was doing comics and writing drawing these characters that I wanted to be, and playing the characters vicariously through my drawings. And then, when I became a stand-up, I all of a sudden found a new way of conveying this character and this persona, and then through acting. So, I think, as I say, once you are an entertainer and your job is to entertain the people, you should learn all the factors that do that. I don't think you should limit yourself.
We're more or less the same age, and I grew up watching TV as you were on it, going through your career. Is it thrilling for you now that you're on the poster? Because let's face it, in this business, many people from the generation that you started out with MTV are forgotten and are now driving taxis. The fact that you're still on a poster in Derby, starring in a pantomime, means that you're selling tickets and pulling people in. It is a business. That must be a great compliment.
I'm forever. And I know it sounds cliche to say that you're grateful, but I truly am, because I remember doing interviews with at MTV and seeing people just get signed, and they're feeling excited and about the fact that they're going to have a hit single on XYZ. But you can tell, without being horrible, that within 6 months you was never going to see that person again.
Yeah.
Right? They only had one hit single. You knew they didn't have a hit album. And you didn't know how to say to them, like, mate, you better prepare, because after this, it's over. And I think that's the thing that always scared me, is knowing that I saw the excitement on these people's faces when they just got this deal, or they've just been told their midweeks was like, oh, number 3 or number 2. And they're like, oh, wow. And then, even the record company knows that, yeah, this is not going to last long. They don't have the longevity. So I always wanted the longevity, because I didn't want to ever be that person. I'll give you a better example. You will see interviews with celebrities, and they'll say, where do you want to be in 5 years? And then you watch that video 5 to 10 years' time, and wherever they said they wanted to be, they were never there.
It does make you a bit cynical, though, doesn't it? Because I suppose we're in the same game in a way. When we're interviewing people, especially the kids on X Factor, you do sometimes cringe at the delusion to which they're led to believe they're going to have this success. And, of course, the whole point is you have to be forgotten for there to be a new star next year. It's brutal, isn't it?
We're speaking like this because we've been in the business long enough to understand, like you said, it's a business.
Yeah.
Right? But initially, those people that are coming in only see the word show.
Yes.
So, right. So, I as I say, I'm old school like that, in the sense that I understand that the two words really are one word. It's show business. So, and not that I'm trying to be skeptical, but my advice to anybody coming into this industry is that if you want to have a long-term career where you end up supplying for your family, having a mortgage, a certain way of living, if you don't have the ideology that it is business, you won't survive 2 minutes.
Yeah. The last time I saw you was in the West End at the Glorious Theatre or Drury Lane in that huge show, Shrek the Musical, which I thought was glorious. And you did such a great job in it. I felt for you it was sort of an affirmation and a comeback in a way, because it was so credible. Did you feel that?
You've hit the nail on the head. I couldn't even say any better myself. Because I remember at the time, I always, I'm very, one thing about me is I'm very honest about my public persona and what I've been through, and I was going from pillar to post prior to that. I was doing stand up and XYZ, but I wasn't really getting any kind of major gigs, so I was literally surviving. And so when I auditioned for Shrek, I really didn't think I was going to get it, but it was an audition, and that's what you do in this business. You audition, and hopefully something gives. And When I got the role, my agent called me and I was laying in my bed, very much unemployed, and he said, "Are you laying down?" That's so funny enough. I've just woken up. I am literally doing just that. Yeah. And he said, he goes, they want you, and not only do they want you, you're the first person they've cast. And I was just blown away. I was like, I remember the feeling of, I felt like I was elevating in the bed. I felt like I was levitating. Yeah. And I knew at that point that, wow, like, it looks like I'm back out there again. And it looks like there's such a thing as a second coming. You know, I saw John Travolta when he did it many years ago, and that, believe it or not, that was my beacon. I remember, you know, watching John Travolta, like Saturday Fever and all that, the old school films he used to do, from Carrie all the way up, and then I remember he just disappeared. Yeah. And he was doing little B-rate films like Look Who's Talking and stuff, but you could tell that nobody knew really who he was, right? And then, as we know, he got Pulp Fiction. People didn't realise he was such a great actor, and then after that, his career took off again. But I remember, if you think about it realistically, he was kind of like, he'd fallen off for maybe about 10, 15 years, right? You know, where no one cared about John Travolta, and then Pulp Fiction, all of a sudden, he's now John Travolta that owns his own planes, you know? So I when I saw his comeback, that's when I believed in it. I was like, okay, you do get a second go. It takes a while, but it does come.
I've got a feeling I won't have made it in the business unless I have a 747 in my back garden too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're men. Listen, if you've only got a car, you've got a long way to go.
You know, the other thing about you, I mean, we talk about triple threats in the business, but I mean, even from radio, you've done that and you did it massively successfully. I think we crossed over for a bit when you were at Choice FM. I was on Capital Gold at the time. And then you do the theatre. And then I look at your appearance in itself. I mean, you even work hard at that. In a way, you were born to be an American star because that's what they do over there, isn't it? They take care of everything. How long are you in the gym to look like Richard Blackwood?
You know what? Okay, you are so on point, right? And you know, I've been an interviewee and an interviewer to know, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, he knows his stuff, right? And with me, it sounds horrible because I'm very proud to be British, right? But I do follow the Americanism of the way that you look and looking like a star, right? Americans are very big on that. I'm not talking about the surgery. I'm just talking prior to that, the making sure you work out in the gym, because once again, understanding this business, it's like you got people out there in America that lie about their age. Now, I would never lie about my age. I'm proud to be 44 or 45 in May. But where I find my weapon is that I'm 44 going on 45, but I look like I could be my late 20s, early 30s because I train. Yeah. So I use that as my strength. Like, actually, that's not a weakness, that's a strength. And it's something that I need to capitalize on. And also, it doesn't limit the roles that you get. Like, when I got EastEnders, I remember I used to train prior to even the audition, and people would say, what are you training for? And I would say, I'm training for the role I haven't got yet. And people used to find that so weird. And I was like, but you see me on the treadmill and I do kung fu and blah, blah. And they'll go, training for the role you haven't got yet. And I said, yeah, that's called having faith, right? So, and where I got that from, because I pay attention to everything, was the young man that played Spider-Man, the first one. Oh God, I interviewed him as well. I can't remember his name now, but he did like 3 Spider-Mans. And he originally was quite skinny, and he heard about the role. So what he did was he started to work out, and he ended up getting the kind of Spider-Man build. So then when he auditioned, they looked at him and said, oh, well, you know, you definitely got the look for Peter Parker, but what about Spider-Man? And he took off his top. And they were like, oh, wow. And he's like, yeah. So in the film, they had to CGI his body to make him look small, to make him look smaller. Wow. Because it's actually busted. So all those things, once again, I pay attention to, and I go, okay, right, you know, he trained for the role that he didn't even have yet.
Interesting.
Right? So, yeah, so that's what I do. That's my whole ideology.
The other thing I love about you too, although you have been political over the years and you've said stuff, you're not doing that, I'm getting a gig because I'm ticking a box. You get the gig because you're good at it and you do it well. It's an interesting time right now because I don't believe tokenism necessarily helps. However, we look at Panto, there is a a thing at the minute where you look at the posters, there aren't many non-white faces. Is that still an issue, or is it just because black actors don't particularly want to do pantomime?
Here's my view on that. I initially wasn't so keen on Panto myself. And partly, I'm not speaking for other black people, but as a black man myself, Panto wasn't really a thing that I grew up going to as a kid. Like, black parents of the 70s and 80s never really took their kids to Panto. It wasn't within their culture. So I didn't really experience Panto until I did it, to be fair. So I remember thinking, wow, this is cheesy humour, and I'm not really with cheesy humour, and blah, blah. But I somehow, very luckily, found a way to play the character without him being cheesy. I tried to make him, because once again, I break down the character and I say, okay, he believes that he can get Cinderella. Even though he's not the coolest guy, that means that in his head he must think he's cool, right? So I play the character that he has a swag about him, but then he also has an innocence and a stupidity about him that shows as to why it is he will never get the girl. But he is funny. He's confident. He says his jokes, and he doesn't say them in a shy way. He says them in confidence because he believes I'm really that good, right? Do you know what I mean? And Cinderella will one day see how good I am. So I play him with that level of confidence. So I eliminated the thing that scared me, which was the cheesiness. I just couldn't work with it, if that makes sense. And I think that you find that maybe with some black actors, they probably face the same problem, which is that the cheesy element, they find it hard to play the cheesy element because it's not within our culture to be gimmicky and cheesy, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. Because let's face it, Buttons at the end of the day might not get the girl, but he gets the audience, doesn't he? Because we immediately warm to him because we love the underdog.
Thank you. And that's, so my thing is that I wanted to play the underdog, but the underdog that could win.
Yes.
Right? Not the underdog that it's like, oh, he's bound to lose. It's like, no, he actually, when there's a scene where Cinderella kind of just says, oh, I want to be by myself. And I say, okay, Cinderella, and I walk away. And the audience, the way they go, it's like, because it's like, we want him to get you.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I've got to play that. I can't play that by being a buffoon because they'll say, come on, mate. Like, you don't know what you. So I've got to play it with an era of coolness where it's like, Cinderella, what is it that you don't see? I've got to do that. I owe that to the character.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I think that it's very important to play him that way. And as I say, but also in relation to black people playing Panto, I do believe that black people wouldn't mind doing it. I just believe that they don't kind of know what to expect, just like I didn't. I didn't know what to expect, and I think it's a sort of a weird area to cross into because it's not our area.
Right. And then we look at your career of late, which is on EastEnders, which is one of the most watched programmes on TV. Again, when the phone rings for that, you must have been thrilled. But you did it fantastically. I notice on that show, if you're good, you come in with great hype. If you're amazing, you stay. If not, you disappear quickly. You're still there. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've been once again. I'm very lucky. I think there's a change in the water. I think there's a big thing happening because bless him, when Dominic was there, and Dominic hired me, he said, I want to bring in a black man who is seen as an equal to Phil Mitchell's character.
Right.
Right. And he said, because we have nothing like that on the show or on TV, where a black man is upstanding. Yeah, he might have a bit of a criminal past, like Phil Mitchell's character, but he's also somebody that, as a man, you want to gravitate to and say, I like him, I respect him. He goes, we don't really see that, and he said, so I want to make you the first. And I thought, wow, like, not only am I getting a role on a TV program that I would do for free, but he wanted me to stand for something as well, which has never been done before on TV. And so I'll always be grateful. So knowing that, once again, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to let this down, because if I get this right, it speaks volumes to the next generation that's coming up thinking that they can't make it because they're a female or they're Asian or they're black. It's like, no, your color doesn't depict where you should go. If anything, right, you should use that to reinforce where you're going to go, because it's just it's your basis, right? So I'm always, even Sean now, Sean who's now in EastEnders, he's the new executive producer, and Sean, we had a meeting, and Sean said, "I really love what you've done with the character. Like you didn't make him an out-and-out gangster where he doesn't have layers. You made him human."
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, these are lovely things, because these guys, this is their world. They do this day in, day out, so they could recognize a fraud when they see one, right? And so the fact that they're saying, "I very much believe in what you're doing," yeah, it's a great time. So I'm more than grateful.
And I think that's born out of the humour as well. You've got natural timing, and I think that's what we love, especially in EastEnders, because it's so rare. Somebody who can actually have a zinger and deliver it. I think you've brought that to the soap, which is crucial, because it does get a bit heavy at times, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And as I say, like what they're doing is they're trying to make it very not human. Like yes, we do want the big cliffhanger, like the big doof-doofs and blah blah, but at the same time, people have got to be able to watch the show and go, "I can relate to that,"
right,
or "I'm going through that," and blah blah. And I think EastEnders are very good at doing that. I think they're very good at touching on subject matters that could be a bit risque and a bit controversial, but at the same time know that there are people that are really living that, right? But then at the same time make it a bit lighthearted, because not every day is a dismal day,
right?
So I think they found a good medium. I think it's a good time to be on EastEnders right now.
Do you know when you'll be back filming?
Literally the beginning of January. There's no rest.
Oh, fantastic. Do you know what? I mean this sincerely, Richard. I think you're a huge inspiration, and you should be admired, A, as a black man, but B, as a human being, because I think what you've done is forged a career out of hard work and determination, and I so admire how you do everything, but you do it well. You're not there because you're ticking a box or tokenism. You're there because you're brilliant, and for that, I give you huge kudos. Thank you very much for talking to me.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
I mean it, big man. Cinderella is continuing twice a day at the Derby Live. Go and see him at 2 and 7, and some morning shows as well, I hear, which must be a killer. What's that like, waking up at 7 o'clock knowing you've got to turn it on by 10?
Listen, to sing a song at 10, my voice is still asleep. So I apologise to people that have heard the bed voice.
I can't imagine. The show runs until the 3rd of January at Derby Live. Richard Blackwood, great to talk to you. Thanks for your time.